Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most shocking military developments of the 21st century, Russia's so-called armor apocalypse, a staggering wave of tank losses that has shaken the foundation of Vladimir Putin's war machine and forced the world to rethink the strength of one of history's largest armored forces. When the war in Ukraine began, many analysts predicted a rapid armored thrust. Russia possessed thousands of tanks on paper. Decades of Soviet doctrine had emphasized overwhelming force through steel and firepower. The world expected columns of armor to roll across Ukraine with unstoppable momentum. But what unfolded was something entirely different. Instead of swift dominance, Russian tank units encountered fierce resistance. Ukrainian forces adapted quickly. Portable anti-tank weapons, drones, precision artillery, and real-time intelligence combined to create a lethal battlefield environment. Russian armor suddenly looked vulnerable. The losses began to mount almost immediately. Images of destroyed tanks flooded social media. Burned-out hulks littered highways and fields. Abandoned vehicles became symbols of logistical chaos. What was once considered a symbol of Russian strength turned into a visual representation of vulnerability. The scale of destruction has been historic. Open-source analysts tracking visual confirmations have counted thousands of damaged, destroyed, or captured Russian tanks. Even accounting for fog of war and incomplete data, the numbers are staggering. Some estimates suggest losses unmatched since World War II. For a country that built its military identity around armored warfare, this is more than a tactical setback. It is a strategic shock. To understand how this happened, we need to look at both doctrine and execution. Russian military planning relied heavily on rapid advances supported by armor. The assumption was that Ukrainian resistance would collapse quickly. That assumption proved disastrously wrong. Instead of collapsing, Ukrainian forces decentralized. Small units armed with portable anti-tank missiles targeted vulnerable points. Modern weapons like top attack systems exposed weaknesses in turret protection that had existed for decades. Russian tanks were designed during a different era. Many models in active service were upgrades of Cold War platforms. While modernized with improved optics and reactive armor, their core structure remained rooted in Soviet design philosophy. That philosophy emphasized compact size and autoloaders, but often sacrificed crew survivability. When penetrated, ammunition stored inside the turret frequently detonated catastrophically. This led to what observers grimly labeled the jack-in-the-box effect. Turrets blown skyward became a grim symbol of the battlefield. It was devastating not just materially, but psychologically. Crew morale suffered. Tank warfare is already dangerous, but when soldiers see repeated catastrophic losses of similar vehicles, confidence erodes. Reports indicated that some Russian crews hesitated to advance without infantry support, altering operational tempo. Logistics compounded the problem. Russia's armored thrusts extended beyond reliable supply lines. Fuel shortages, maintenance failures, and poor coordination left vehicles stranded. Abandoned tanks were sometimes captured intact by Ukrainian forces. That added insult to injury. Each captured tank could be repaired and used against its former owners. It also provided intelligence on Russian technology and weaknesses. In a modern conflict, every loss carries informational consequences. Another key factor was the drone revolution. Small, inexpensive unmanned aerial vehicles transformed the battlefield. They identified targets, corrected artillery fire, and even carried explosives. Tanks that once relied on concealment found themselves constantly observed from above. There was nowhere to hide. Traditional armor tactics assumed limited visibility and slower reconnaissance cycles. Now, a tank column could be spotted within minutes. Precision strikes followed rapidly. Artillery became king once again. Ukraine's integration of Western-supplied systems with drone targeting created deadly accuracy. Russian armor, often moving in predictable patterns, paid the price. Concentrated formations became liabilities rather than strengths. Training disparities also mattered. Reports suggest many Russian units were rushed into combat with limited preparation. Combined arms coordination broke down in several early offensives.
Tanks advanced without adequate infantry screens, making them easy prey for ambushes. Urban warfare amplified vulnerabilities. Cities like Mariupol in later battles across eastern Ukraine showed how tanks struggle in dense environments without close support. Narrow streets and high buildings provided countless hiding spots for anti-tank teams. Strategic miscalculation loomed over everything. The Kremlin appeared to underestimate both Ukrainian resolve and Western support. As advanced weapons flowed into Ukraine, the battlefield shifted. What may have worked in previous conflicts no longer guaranteed success. Sanctions played a long-term role. Western restrictions on technology exports impacted Russia's ability to replace advanced components. Optics, thermal imaging systems, and microelectronics became harder to source. Over time, this affected production and repair cycles. The question then became, can Russia sustain these losses? On paper, Russia inherited massive Soviet stockpiles. Thousands of tanks sat in storage facilities across the country. But storage does not equal readiness. Many stored vehicles require extensive refurbishment. Exposure to weather, cannibalization for parts, and outdated systems reduce operational viability. Reactivating old tanks is costly and time-consuming. Some reintroduced models date back decades. Observers have noted the appearance of older variants on the battlefield. This suggests modern stocks may be depleted faster than expected. While older tanks can still fire powerful shells, they often lack modern protection and targeting systems. The psychological impact extends beyond the battlefield. Russia's global image as a top-tier military power has been challenged. Arms export customers watch closely. If Russian tanks struggle against modern anti-tank systems, potential buyers may reconsider future purchases. Domestic perception is equally significant. State media controls much of the narrative. However, the scale of losses is difficult to conceal entirely. Families of soldiers notice casualties. Social media leaks pierce official messaging. Economically, replacement costs add pressure. Modern tanks are expensive to produce. Even if simplified wartime models are built, resources must be diverted. In a prolonged war, industrial capacity becomes as decisive as battlefield tactics. Russia has attempted adaptation. Reports indicate additional armor plating, improvised protective cages, and tactical adjustments. Crews deploy smokescreens more frequently. Units attempt to operate in smaller groups rather than massive columns. But adaptation takes time, and time is costly in war. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues refining its approach. Western training and intelligence sharing enhance effectiveness. Every destroyed tank becomes data for improving future strikes. The battlefield has become a laboratory of modern warfare. Lessons are being written in real time. Militaries around the world are studying footage, tactics, and outcomes. The vulnerability of heavy armor in drone-saturated environments is a central takeaway. Does this mean tanks are obsolete? Not necessarily. Armor still provides mobility, firepower, and shock value, but its role is evolving. Tanks must integrate seamlessly with air defense, electronic warfare, and infantry support to survive. Russia's experience underscores that point dramatically. The sheer number of losses suggests systemic issues rather than isolated mistakes. Doctrine, planning, logistics, training, and intelligence all intersected to produce this armor crisis. There is also the human dimension. Behind every destroyed vehicle are crew members. Casualties among experienced tank operators degrade institutional knowledge. Replacing equipment is difficult. Replacing trained soldiers is even harder. Long-term consequences could reshape Russia's military structure. Future reforms may emphasize drones and precision systems over massed armor. Budget priorities might shift. Recruitment and training standards may be reassessed. Yet, the war continues. Russia still fields significant armored units. Despite losses, it retains numerical advantages in certain sectors. The conflict remains dynamic, with gains and setbacks on both sides. However, the myth of invincible Russian armor has been shattered. In the early days of the invasion, many feared a lightning campaign driven by unstoppable tank divisions. Instead, the world witnessed stalled convoys and flaming wreckage. Information warfare magnified the imagery. Videos of turret explosions and drone strikes spread globally within hours. Public perception solidified quickly. In modern conflict, narrative can be as powerful as firepower. Strategically, the attrition has ripple effects. Resources allocated to replacing tanks cannot fund other military programs simultaneously. Opportunity costs accumulate. Over years, this shapes national defense trajectories. Another element to consider is terrain. Ukraine's landscape includes open fields, forests, rivers, and urban centers. Seasonal mud, known historically as rotputsitsa, complicates armored movement. Heavy vehicles can become trapped, creating easy targets. Weather becomes a silent adversary. Cold winters strain engines. Spring thaws immobilize tracks. Maintenance demands increase under harsh conditions. A tank is only as effective as its ability to maneuver. There is also the issue of command structure. Centralized decision-making can slow adaptation. Rapidly evolving battlefield realities demand flexible leadership. If orders lag